All right, so now we'll move on and we'll talk about our tips for this week. Sorry about that rant as well. But anyway, we get to the first game of the round, and it's Brisbane versus Collingwood. Now, this will be our game of the round, so we'll just go through our tips quickly, just for this game. I'm going to be picking Collingwood. I think, even though it's at the Gabba, Collingwood are playing so well at the moment, I think it's hard to go past them, and I can't tip against them. I think they're playing too good at football.
Yeah, I've went Collingwood just pretty for the same reasons. They just look too good at the moment.
Yeah, I think they're probably, at the moment, if we're looking a little bit like 2023 predictions at the moment, I'm saying that they're the premiership favourites by a long mile. Yeah. I don't know who's going to compete against them at the moment.
I still think Melbourne. I think Melbourne have got it.
It's very early on in the season, and look, I think it's very hard to pick a premiership favourite because it's more the form towards the end of the year. Yeah. We saw Melbourne last year; they dominated the first 10 games, they won their first 10 games, and then they petered off and played last year. So, at the moment, Collingwood are my premiership favourites at the moment. You're still thinking Melbourne?
Yeah, well, I had it as Brisbane, but they look horrible at the moment.
Brisbane have to bring that.
I think Melbourne, but I think Collingwood win on Thursday.
Alright, so now we'll get into our same game multi. This is Jackpot Junkies as well. He's the co-host of the show. Make sure to go follow him over on Instagram, Jackpot Junkies, as he puts multis up for every single AFL game. He saves the game of the week for us, and we get the first scoop of it basically, because I think it comes out before. Does it come out before? Yeah, so if you guys want to see it for the game of the round, this is the game also I'll be streaming on this channel. But for now, we'll get into the multi for Brisbane versus Collingwood.
Yeah, so last week it was pretty horrible. I don't think we won anything, but it's a new week. We're going to win some money this week.
New opportunities.
Yeah, new opportunities. New worth. So we'll go with the first one for the... this is about a 7-legger. So it's a big one. John Noble for Collingwood, 15 disposals. He's done it every week this season. So confident in that one. Jack Crisp has 20. He's done 20 each week, game this year. Last 2 times he's played Brisbane, he has got 30, but we'll go for 20 just to be safe. Jordan De Goey has got for 20. Pretty safe. Hopefully he does play midfield this week, but the last 2 times he's played Brisbane, he's got 20 plus, so confident in that one. Then we got Mitchell for 25. He has got 25 the last 2 weeks. And last time he played Brisbane when he was in the Hawthorn colours, he got 36. So I'm pretty confident in that one. Just be hopefully that he keeps that form that he's got. Lucky Neil for 25. I'm confident in that. He seems to just find the pill when he's playing good. But he does normally rely on Brisbane playing well for him to get the disposals. Because he only got 20 in the game against Port in the start of the season. But he has got 30 the last 2 weeks. And 25 the last 2 times he's played Collingwood. And then we've got Jack Gunston and Mychek. They have both kicked goals in every game so far this season, so I'm pretty confident in that one as well, those 2 as well.
So he's kicked 1 goal for the multi-round.
Yeah, they both kicked goals in
goal. 1 goal any time.
Yeah, goal any time in each of their games so far this season. So that's my 7-legger. And always gamble responsibly.
As always, guys, make sure to gamble responsibly. Next game we get up to is who's the next game? Carlton versus North Melbourne. This is the Easter Friday game.
Yeah.
Look, North Melbourne are playing quite well at the moment. I mean, look, they did obviously lose last week, but they've got Davies Uniacke. Looks like he'll come back. I think Josh Simpkin, is he out for 2 weeks?
I think it's a wait and see, but I think it's likely that he'll miss.
He was suspended.
Was he?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, no. I think they're challenging it, aren't they?
No, he got suspended last week.
Oh, right.
Right.
Oh, I can't remember. It's been too long.
So, I think he's out for another week. But with Luke Davies-Uniacke back, I think North Melbourne have a bit of a chance. But Carlton have been looking very good this season, still undefeated at this stage. I'm going to be picking Carlton in this game.
I think it's Carlton. I think they look too good. They've been consistent pretty much all season. So, besides the draw, but I think that's still consistent enough to do it.
Next up, we get to the Crows versus Fremantle. This is Saturday afternoon. In Adelaide Oval, I think this is a pretty obvious one. I'm picking the Crows to beat Fremantle. The Crows looked good last week against Port Adelaide. Fremantle, they got a win, but as we mentioned, they were playing a depleted West Coast.
Yeah.
Fremantle did win this game last year when these two played over at Adelaide Oval in the last
Heath
stitch effort by Heath Chapman, but I can't see the Crows losing this game.
I think that they got the win 3-0, but they, like we just said, Eagles were decimated by injury. They had 6 or 7 players, so the Crows have played pretty well, consistent footy. Besides maybe a half of footy in the first two games, so I think the Crows win.
Next up, we get to my certainty pick for this week, which is I'm going to be picking Richmond to beat the Bulldogs. I have yet to get a certainty pick. As you guys know, we'll be doing certainty picks throughout the first 3 rounds, and at the end of the tipping here, we'll actually be showing the fact, because I've missed every single one so far. We had to wax our arms, which we did before we started, and I had to eat chili as well. So if I lose this one, I think I have to pay for your petrol next. We only picked 5 challenges for certainty picks because we thought this was going to be easy. But the first 4 rounds, we've
horrible.
He's only got 1. I've got none of them. But I am confident, knock on wood, that Richmond will beat the Bulldogs. I think Richmond have played quite well this year. I think the only time they've looked the poor is against Collingwood, which I think are the benchmark of the competition at the moment. I think the Bulldogs played well last week against Brisbane, but I mean, if they're going to have to back it up, I just don't know if they can. So I'm going to be picking Richmond in this game to win against the Bulldogs. Yeah,
I've went Richmond. I just think that, yes, they won last week, the Bulldogs, but Hugo Hagen kicked 5. He's a third-year player. You can't expect that every week.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, I still think the mentality is that they're not going to defend. I don't think you can trust them to defend every single week.
Yeah.
So I think Richmond, they've shown a bit of trust so far this season with a couple of good wins. So.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got St Kilda versus the Gold Coast. Gold Coast obviously recorded their first win of the season, which was a big one for them. But St Kilda undefeated still, and if they win this one, they're going to be playing an undefeated match against Collingwood next week. So I think St Kilda will do this. They're playing brilliant footy at the moment. I'm going to be picking the Saints to beat the Gold Coast. It's in Melbourne as well, so I think that gives St Kilda much more of an opportunity. I think they'll go 4-0.
Yeah, I think they'll go 4-0. They just look very defensive at the moment, but they look disciplined. They haven't looked disciplined in the last 5 or 6 years
under different coaches.
Under different coaches, but they look disciplined, and you just can't trust the Suns to play well every week. And I just don't think they're going to do it. So I think St Kilda will win pretty convincingly at home.
All right, next up is the Swans versus Port Adelaide. Obviously, the 2 teams we support. I support Sydney, he supports Port Adelaide. Both teams coming off pretty poor losses. Port obviously lost against the Crows, which is, I think, a bigger loss in South Australia.
Yeah.
But also Sydney losing against Melbourne by 50 points is a very poor loss. So both of these teams are going to want to respond. However, the big one here is the fact that the Swans have a shocking record against Port Adelaide. I don't know how many times it is in a row, but Sydney have lost 1, 2, 3, I think at least the last 3 against Port Adelaide. Maybe even more. Their form record against each other, it doesn't say, because why would it? But Sydney have lost their last 3, probably more than that, against Port Adelaide. And I've tipped Port Adelaide to win this one as well. I think a lot of the players at Port Adelaide do like Ken Hinkley, and they don't want him to get fired. And if they lose this one, they're going to be 1-3, and then we're going up against the Bulldogs next week. I think Port Adelaide will show up here. They've got a very good record against the Swans. It is at the SCG, and Sydney have been very good there the past year or so. So I don't think it's an easy win for Port, obviously, but I think Port will win this game probably by maybe 10 points. If I think it'll be a close one, but I think Port will end up and win this one.
And I just checked, it's the last 6 against you.
6 against us.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
well, there you go.
I'll just say this. It will be a typical Port performance. We'll win. Port Adelaide will win, because that's just typical of Port Adelaide. They are a response team. They have been for the last 4 or 5 years, really. So they will win again.
They'll respond.
Yes, they'll respond against the Swans.
I think if Sydney lose this game, it's a huge loss as well, because they'll be going up against Richmond in round 5 at Gather Round. They have an okay record here in Adelaide, but not the best. So going up against Richmond is going to be big for them.
Yeah.
So if they don't win this one, they'll be 2-2, and then possibly going to 2-3, and it won't be looking like a very good start to the season for the Swans. I do think Port will win this one. Obviously, I hope the Sydney do win, but I think it'll be a very close game, this one.
Yeah, I think it will be a close game.
Next up, Sunday, we get to Essendon versus the Giants. This is actually going to be a pretty good game. Giants, Look, they were 2 goals away from winning this game against Carlton.
Yeah.
Without the momentum was hugely swung in one umpire's decision. I think the Giants are actually playing a lot better than what their season looks so far. They've obviously got 1 and 2, but I think they're playing quite well.
Yeah.
However, Essendon have performed very well early this season. They've played 1 poor quarter so far against St Kilda, and that was the first quarter, and that was basically where the game was won for the Saints.
Yeah, cost them. That's what it did.
Yeah.
Cost them.
I am going to pick Essendon in this game, and probably the only reason why is because it is at Marvel.
Yeah.
I think Essendon are faster on the around the ground, and I think they'll win under the roof.
Yeah, I've went Essendon. I think they. To be honest, I don't know why I'm picking Essendon, but I just think that with the momentum they've had, they've played pretty consistent footy. I just think that they've got the better structure in the midfield to win them this match.
Alright, after that we get to Optus Stadium. This is West Coast versus Melbourne. The only thing on West Coast side here is the fact that it's in WA.
Yeah.
And West Coast have won. They won their first game of the year in WA. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago. Sorry, they lost in the derby last week, but they won their home game there this year. Melbourne are a pretty good team over in WA, though. They did obviously win their premiership in 2021 over there. Melbourne, I think, were very poor against Brisbane. But other than that, they've looked like one of the definitely premiership contenders. I'm going to be picking Melbourne in this game, and I don't see West Coast having any sort of chance, really.
No, I don't either. I think Melbourne will win this pretty comfortably. They will just... like they've done in the last couple of games. They put the foot down. They put the foot down. And now they might be in it for 1.5, 2 quarters, but they'll put the foot down and Melbourne will win this by 40 plus.
And finally, we get to the traditional Easter Monday game, Geelong versus Hawthorn. Who would have thought that Hawthorn have a better record than Geelong at this stage of the season?
It's funny to think about, and I'm sure most people around the country will be laughing at Geelong at the moment.
Yeah. One thing is as well, because my brother got to pick first this week, his certainty pick is Geelong to beat Hawthorn.
I think it's just that, yes, they won last week, Hawthorn, but you can't just blow over under the rug the performances in the first 2 rounds by Hawthorn. They were horrible in those first 2 rounds. They couldn't kick a goal.
Yeah. And
yes, Geelong have played horrible football. They haven't really... Jeremy Cameron's been their shining light. But I think he'll play well in this game, and he'll win this game. He'll win it for him as well.
Yeah, I think Geelong will win this one. I've tipped them as well.
And
I can't really see Hawthorn putting up much of an effort. I mean, to be honest, I think if Geelong won at least one of these last 3 games, they really should have. I mean, they should have beaten the Gold Coast of all teams. But if they won one of these their first 3 games, no one would really be even giving Hawthorn some sort of a thought.
Yeah, but they did win last year, Hawthorn, against them.
Yeah, true. But let's be honest, they had a team last year.
Yeah,
they still had O'Meara, Mitchell. They had Gunston. They still had a team. Now they're basically running a rabble. But yeah, those are our tips for round 4.